the Pittsburgh Steelers. They had probably, arguably, the best draft out of any team this year. Out of any franchise in the NFL this year, I think Pittsburgh addressed every single need that they absolutely had, but they also got the best talent available for those positions. So, obviously, Pittsburgh they really need to bolster up the offensive line. They really do. That's always been an issue with Pittsburgh is the past 5 years, it seems like we have the most inconsistent offensive line play after years of having one of the top 5 offensive lines in the entire league, led by Marquise Pouncey, guys like David DeCastro, Roman Foster, Marcus Gilbert, you name them. Those guys were roadblocks for the better part of a decade. And then after they retired, it just went downhill for Pittsburgh at the offensive line position. So the first 2 picks for Pittsburgh, fantastic picks. I have no issues with either of them. Troy Fautanu, offensive guard from Washington, and then Zach Frazier, center from West Virginia. Both are solid offensive lineman pieces that Pittsburgh very desperately needed. It's important. I believe this is a contract year coming up for Najee Harris. So while I love Najee, I think he does need a little bit more help on that offensive line because you can't keep giving him the ball 300 times a year and expecting him to stay healthy the entire time. That's not good for a running back's longevity in the NFL at all. So while Najee Harris has to hit the holes when they are open because last year he did miss quite a few when he was running the football, but the majority of the time it's him chugging his feet and just trying to pick up 3 or 4 yards if possible behind that offensive line, which for the better part of 5 years has stunk. But Troy Fautanu and Zach Frazier, honestly, 2 great pickups to start off. So I was big on Pittsburgh trying to get Adonai Mitchell from Texas, the wide receiver from Texas, but I didn't realize that the wide receiver from Michigan, Roman Wilson, was coming out this year in the draft. I thought he was still at Michigan, if I'm being honest. I had no clue that Roman Wilson declared for the draft. But that's who Pittsburgh got with their third draft pick. They got Roman Wilson out of Michigan. Played with J.J. McCarthy, played under Harbaugh. I've watched Roman Wilson play. He is fantastic. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to miss Deontay Johnson whatsoever. So, George Pickens with Roman Wilson, that's pretty solid to me, I think. And you got Calvin Austin. The Pittsburgh is just going to be primed and ready, I promise you. Pittsburgh is going to be primed and ready for this upcoming season. With their 4th pick, Pittsburgh got arguably, another top 3 linebacker in the draft, and Peyton Wilson, linebacker from NC State. That dude was a tackling machine for his entire time at NC State. That dude he just knows how to tackle. Good quality form tackling, he can hit a little bit, but he's no Jeremiah Trotter, Latu, but he can cover, that's for sure. He got quite a few interceptions in his time at NC State, and like I said, he's a tackling machine. So Pittsburgh needed that for the defense because injuries and linebacking play last year was god-awful. Anybody who's a Steeler fan knows how bad that linebacker play was last year. So Peyton Wilson, I think he has the opportunity to start immediately in the NFL for Pittsburgh and start laying the foundation for another steel curtain-like defense. And then the final 3 picks for Pittsburgh, Mason McCormick, offensive guard from South Dakota State, Logan Lee, defensive tackle for Iowa, and then Ryan Watts, quarterback from Texas. So they rounded out basically some basic needs that they, to add depth. Obviously, I like the D-tackle selection, Logan Lee, because Cameron Hayward's getting up in age. And Ryan Watts, obviously, we need more. You can't have too many good corners in the league either, so that's important that they address the cornerback position too. But I do think Pittsburgh is primed and ready, especially going so heavy for the offensive line position in this draft. They're putting all their eggs in one basket when it comes to the success of Russell Wilson and or Justin Fields. Either or, whoever is taking snaps behind center this year, which most likely it's going to be Russell Wilson for the year and then transition into Justin Fields. But either way, whoever is behind center, Pittsburgh is going to make sure that they're well protected. And they're going to make sure that they can run the football to put pressure off of the quarterback position. Now, Kenny Pickett's probably shaking his damn head. He was probably praying that Pittsburgh would get him an offensive line like this. Well, it didn't help that he threw like 3 interceptions a game when he did have time to throw, so that's a bullshit argument. But I love the fact that Pittsburgh went so heavy on offensive line this draft. There's no more excuses when it comes to the run game, and there's no more excuses when it comes to pass blocking. And quarterback play, honestly, if we're being completely honest. Kenny Pickett was young, but dude just couldn't throw the football consistently. Russell Wilson has tenure. Justin Fields has a lot more potential than Kenny Pickett. So there's no more excuses when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're beefing up the offensive line. They're rebuilding that defense brick by brick, little by little. But they're adding depth for that defense brick by brick and little by little. So Pittsburgh's defense is still going to be very viable, and it's going to be up to the offense to finally start putting up some points. So the best team that had the best draft in this year, in 2024, is easily the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think it's necessarily close, from the talent acquisition to addressing team needs. And I think every single one of these guys, at least in the early rounds, has the potential to start week 1 in the NFL.